Hello, I'm Alan Daly and I'm off camera, but I wanted to update this video, this learning scenario that has been so helpful when I've been training or when I've been talking to people. And it's a video about multi-sprint planning. Some people call it release planning, release being a time period of a significant amount of work and then it's intended to be released to production at that point. Some people call it increment planning or program increment planning. And that's fine, there's different flavors, but it's just simply how do you plan for multiple sprints leading to a significant release? While we talk about this, there's some things that will get demonstrated, many things that can be learned. The two main points that this scenario teaches or shows is the backlog physics that happens. Things move around the backlog and how do they move in and out of sprints and so on. And it also demonstrates a way to get to your velocity. If this is a brand new team who's never done anything together, or it's a significantly new technology or a brand new platform, in other words, there's enough new stuff that you really don't know what your velocity is. Velocity being how much can you get done in one sprint. And intuitive velocity is a way to start out with something and then get to some data. So we're going to go over that, and this demonstrates that well. Over here we have our backlog of desired features. These are the 12 things that our product people, stakeholders, etc. would like to have in our deployment to production after 3 sprints. These are, we'll call them user stories. They could be use cases, whatever else you use. They're in priority order here. As we're coming into planning, we said A is more important than B, that's more important than C, and so on. We also have, with the team, put some story point sizes on them. So we're going to start planning, even though we don't know velocity, we at least have done some relative sizing of these different items. So since we don't have a record of velocity, we're going to use our intuition. We're going to rely on our intuition about the size of the work to understand how we can plan to get to some sort of velocity. So as we get this started, first of all, of course, we grab the first item because it's the most important. And we say, okay, we're going to do that one first because it's the highest priority. And for right now, we're going to ignore this number. We're going to ignore this size. And we're just going to ask the team, hey, knowing how big or assuming, can we get A completely done in sprint 1? And the team says, yes, of course, we can get A completely done in sprint 1. We'll have time left over. Okay, great. Let's grab the second highest priority and put it in there. Can we get A and B done? Ignore the numbers still. We'll get to that in a minute. But if we did A and we did B completely done, can we get all that done in sprint 1? And the team again says, yes, we can do that. Okay, great. Let's put another item in, the third most important. Can we get A, B, and C done in one sprint? And the team's like, yeah, we think so. Okay, great. How about D? It's the next most important. D, can we get A, B, C, and D done? Completely done? And somebody in the back of the room in the team speaks up and says, no, that feels like too much. And the rest of the team is like, yeah, that kind of feels like too much. Okay, let's put that back for now. But we still have some space here. Yeah, we think we still have some space. Okay, let's look down in priority order, D, E, F. F is a 3, so it's smaller than the D, even though we're sort of ignoring the numbers for right now. But what about that? What if we put F in sprint 1? Can we do that? A, B, C, and F. Can we get all those down in sprint 1? Teams, yes, but that's it. It feels like it's full. Okay, that's good. So let's look at the numbers now. If we feel like A, B, C, and F is full, what's our numbers? 5, 8, 13, 16, right? So our planning number for velocity for sprint 1 is 16. This is not based on data, remember. This is just, we thought this was enough to fill it. Now we added up the points of what we thought was full, 16. But we can use this intuition number to now plan the rest of the sprints. So let's pull D over here in sprint 2, and E in sprint 2, and G in sprint 2. So we're at 13. H is a 5. That would put us over 16. But we could do I. I could go here, and now we're at 16. And now we can put the rest to 15, which was less than our planning number, our intuition planning number of 16. And we can publish this multi-sprint plan to our stakeholders, to everybody. Say, we think right now, without data, but our intuition says we can fit all of this by our deployment date. So the sprint proceeds. Let's say we work through the sprint. We're working through the sprint and A gets done and B gets done and C gets done, but F did not get done. We got started on it, but it did not get done. Given that scenario, what was the actual velocity in sprint 1? What did we actually get done? Well, we have one data point now. We have 5 plus 3 plus 5 is 13. That's only one data point. It's not an average. It's not over time. It's our first shot. We have data that says we can get 13 done. Using that data, we can now adjust the other sprints, because at the end of sprint 1, we now need to adjust our multi-sprint plan to match the data we have, even though it's just one data point. So we can look here and go, well, we can do D and E, that's 10, and we probably should finish working on F, so we'll put F in there, but that's our 13. We're at 13 now, so those come out. E, F, G, let's take it in priority order, right? G, H, I. Okay, that's 8, 11. We've got 2 more. So, okay, 2. We can put J back over here. And we want to rely on data as much as we can. So we're using 13 as our planning for the next 2 sprints. Using 13 as our planning, we believe that K and L will not make it into deployment. Now, what's interesting here is that then a stakeholder could say, oh, man, but I really wanted L. Can we increase the priority of L? I'm like, okay, yeah, we can. How about if what do you want to trade it out? Let's trade it out at I. Okay. So let's say that I and K are at risk to not be getting deployed, but we've got L in there now because we're using our data, our 13, to get to the next one. So we're flying along and we get the second sprint done. Let's say D gets done and E is done and F is done, and we had time left over before we got to the end of the sprint. So we simply said, well, J is small, let's pull J over here and we'll work on that in the sprint because we have space. We know that we have space now, and lo and behold, we did get that done. That's great. So that means that our actual velocity for sprint 2 is 5 and 10 and 13 and 15. So if 15 was in sprint 2 and 13 was in sprint 1, if we do a rolling average, right, with these two, that would mean our planning number, oops, I should have done that in green. Our planning number for sprint 3 now is 14 because we're using the 2 data points we have, right? This is the velocities becoming real. So at 14, what are we going to do here? Do we want to do, which ones do we want to do? All right, so right here we have 8, 11. Well, let's pull I in there. We can put I in there, and that's 14. So K is the one that is likely not to get done. And then we can say, okay, great. Let's go through the sprint. We got G done. We got H done. We got L done. We got I done. That's nice. That is 8, 14 again. 14 was the actual. And now all of these items can be deployed to production, but K is not going to make it to that date because we are using the actual data of what we could get done and adjusting our plan as we went to adjust for what can fit and what can actually get done to get deployed. And that's a little example of multi-sprint planning. And notice how the backlog was shifting around. There's some physics and choices going on. But isn't it nice that we can start to have conversations about what didn't get done and then what might shift priorities because of what did or didn't get done? We can have those conversations with our stakeholders, and we can have those conversations before the day before we're supposed to deploy. We're having those conversations after the first sprint already. We're starting to make those decisions together with our stakeholders and using the data that we're collecting to make those decisions.